So last month's video blog was on home affordability and the three things that affect home affordability. So it's the price of the home, the local interest rates, and your income. Now in Steamboat Springs, home prices are going up. And so definitely that's going to affect home affordability, and also interest rates are going up. I'm Charlie Dresden, steamboatsmyhome.com, and I'm here with Catherine Peterson, Prime Source Mortgage, and Catherine's going to dissect interest rates, what affects interest rates, and how they affect the home affordability.
Right, exactly. So interest rates are basically, interest is the cost of the money that you borrow. Normally on a mortgage, it's a 30-year fixed rate, and rates hit an all-time low in about December of last year, and they've slowly been ticking up, but they are still so low in comparison to where they've basically ever been. And then as they tick up, it does change the affordability, but we're still in a very, very affordable time to buy. So that's great. Some of the big movers of rates are things like what's going on in the economy and what's happening, who's saying what about what the economy is going to do. So those rates move around basically daily and throughout the day, just like the stock market would.
So as our economy is starting to recover, especially our housing market, the rates are starting to go up. You hear it all in the media about, our housing market is recovering, thus interest rates are going up. Why do those things kind of go in correlation? Does that always happen?
Well, generally, and we're actually at a very lucky time that interest rates are low and housing prices are low, and those two things don't really ever happen together. So we're kind of in a great, amazing time, especially for the first-time home buyers out there who can come into this market with such great affordability. And really that affordability index is what they call that, is the best it's basically ever been.
Ever in 100 years?
No, ever in the history of the world, basically, or so since there have been anything to measure.
Okay, so why are interest rates starting to go up? I mean, last week or a month ago they were 3.75, and now I see they're in the low fours in just a few weeks. Why is that happening?
Well, what happened is there's a group called the Fed, and whenever they talk, things happen in rates, okay? And so they basically determine a lot of the financial factors that go on with bonds, which affect mortgage rates. Well, last week they said we may not be buying these, which basically they may not be keeping interest rates low. They've been a major driver in them being so historically low. So even that they're thinking about it is increasing rates, and therefore that is, almost a swift and immediate action because they have been almost artificially low for really at least a year.
So because they're low, that kind of stimulates the economy and it stimulates growth and home purchasing. So now that things are starting to recover, in order to get more equilibrium, the rates are starting to bump up, do you think that will slow down home purchasing, or?
Honestly, I haven't seen it be that way. I think eventually it might, but so far, because things are so affordable, it hasn't stopped it. In fact, I almost think it's gone even more crazy because people don't want to lose the amazing rates we have, and I think people are starting to realize that there's an end to this happy drug, and we may not have it very long, and we now need to get in while the rates are still okay.
And so even though we went from 3.5 to 4.25 or so, that 3/4 point, it seems like a lot, which makes your purchasing power go a little bit down. Historically, we were at 7.5%, so we're historically incredibly low and a good time to refinance or purchase real estate.
Exactly. The rates, even though you think, oh my gosh, it's gone up so much, really it hasn't. And there are lots of people who would love to be in the rates we have now and who've had much, much higher rates. So absolutely, it's about the most exciting time that we've had. And housing prices are still great, so why not?
Is there anything you could show us online, kind of a graph that kind of depicts how interest rates fluctuate and how it affects home purchasing powers?
Yep, absolutely. We have a little daily chart I can show you kind of how they've moved and what they've done over the last few months.
Let's take a look.
Okay, so this chart shows mortgage bonds, which are basically exactly opposite to rates. So this is rates at a high, this is rates at a low. And so it shows over the last week that they have increased. And this is about, let's say, 3.5%, roughly 4.5%, and just that move. And then this kind of gives you an idea of, this is since about August of 2011. And this is obviously today, and just how they dropped and then have come back up, but they are still very low, even compared to just a year, a few years ago. This is a graph of 30-year fixed mortgage rates. So this is the actual rates. And you can see back in roughly mid-08, they were at about 6.5. And then just kind of their progression to a low of about 3.375, and that they've climbed up to roughly 4.5, but still very, very low on this whole chart since from the time of '08 to today. So to summarize, rates are really good, even though yes, they have gone up a bit. Get in now, although going is good, and the prices are low and the rates are low. Everything's on sale, is what we like to say. And certainly don't hesitate to let Charlie or I know if you have any questions on rates or the housing market at all. Thanks.
So thanks for tuning in to SteamosMyHome.com video blog. Last month was on home affordability. This month is on interest rates and why it matters and what affects them. So thanks for tuning in to SteamosMyHome.com, and we'll see you next month.